Hello everyone. We are sitting on the floor today. I hope you don't mind, but I felt like I just needed a little bit of a change of pace. I got a seat for you right here. It's very comfortable. Please sit down. And why does it sound like I'm a teacher? I think I just needed a little bit of a break from the desk setup that I had. It was feeling a little bit too corporate professional for me. So I just thought it might be a good idea to change things up. I started this YouTube channel sitting on the floor, so it feels like I'm coming home in a way, making a full circle back to the floor. I don't know what I'm talking about. You guys clicked on this video because you're here to see a reading vlog, so let's just get right into that. If you have been following my channel at all, you know that I have been doing these monthly new release videos. At some point I realized that I was talking about all of these new releases and I wasn't actually reading any of them. I mean, they are new releases, so it is kind of hard to get your hands on them, but I have been requesting them from the library so that I could read them and actually review them and talk about them. And I think I might have gone a little bit overboard. I ended up having like 20 holds at one point. And I mean, the books weren't in my possession in any way, but I requested like 20 ebooks from through Libby, from like all the local libraries that I have access to, and the ones that are not local that I have access to. And yeah, in total, it ended up being like 20 of them. So I did have to like cut that down quite a bit because there was no way that I was going to be able to read that many books on top of all of the other books that I want to read, like all the physical books that I've owned, all the books from previous years that I never got to, and on top of that, like all of the ideas that I have for different videos. So I did have to cut that down quite a bit. Luckily, right now, I do have 3 books, which is kind of my golden number, I feel like, for weekly vlogs. I don't always make it through all 3, but I do tend to favor 3 as a book count for some reason. And I think just things have just sort of worked out that way. Like I've just had like 3 books in a category every time I've done one of these videos. So I have 3 new releases that I'm going to read this week, like I said before. This is not necessarily the order that I'm going to read them, but the first one I have is Hemlock by Melissa Faliveno. And I think this is kind of like a psychological horror or thriller. The story follows this woman, Sam, who decides to go back into the woods where her family's cabin is, and it's like the family's cabin that she's going to go stay in is also where her mom disappeared in the past. And I don't really know what the purpose is for her visit into this cabin in the woods situation, but I'm guessing she's just trying to like figure out maybe what happened to her mom or confront something from her past, like this situation. She's trying to confront it and move past it in a way. She's also a recovering alcoholic, and I think this book could also get a little bit dark. But yeah, I think she ends up having a slip up. She ends up having a beer, and things just get really weird from there. I feel like this book could go in a lot of different directions, and I don't know which one it's going to go in, so I'm really curious to find out. Then the next book that I plan on reading this week is Maria the Wanted by V. Castro, which I am actually like really excited about. Well, I'm excited about all of them, but like I'm really excited about this one. It is a vampire horror story, and I think it kind of involves like this like vampire underworld mafia kind of situation. I don't know how to describe it exactly. It's also like a new vampire kind of finding herself and discovering where she came from, like who turned her. And I don't know. I haven't read like a vampire novel or book in a really long time. And I feel like a lot of the vampire stuff I tend to read are like more romantic-y. So I'm kind of excited to explore vampires as like monsters again, you know? And then the last and final mean the same thing. The last book that I plan on reading this week, it's also the book that I've started already, so I'm probably going to finish this one first, potentially. It is The Swan's Daughter by Roshani Chokshi. I think I'm only about 16 pages in at this point. Yeah, I stopped at chapter 3, so I really didn't get too far into it. So far, I mean, with the little that I did read, I am enjoying it. It's got this like fairy tale vibe to it, which I'm kind of enjoying. I think this is supposed to be a retelling. I forgot what it's a retelling of. I think maybe like The Ugly Duckling or something to do with ducks or swans. The premise is that there's this Prince Eris. He has to get married. He's a prince, so that's kind of part of their duties. And his parents sort of throw this. So his parents kind of set up this competition where all of these women compete for his hand, essentially. And then we also have this character named Demelza, I believe is her name. Let me check. Yeah, so we have Demelza. She's something called a Veritas Swan. She has this ability to determine truth from lies using, I think, singing. So she can sing and then she can ask people questions and they have to tell her the truth. And Prince Eris and her meet. They kind of end up making a deal with each other to help each other out. This is what the first paragraph of the synopsis says. Prince Eris knows that marriage means murder. Thanks to a poorly worded wish to a sea witch, all one needs to rule the Isle of Malice is the heart and hand of the kingdom's heir. Historically, this has been construed quite literally. So his future wife quite literally needs to have his heart because that's how they've been interpreting this curse. And he is going to have to figure out how to survive. And the only way he can do that is by marrying someone who actually loves him and won't just like cut out his heart. And won't like take this curse so literally. This is one of the books I feel like that was being marketed quite a bit before it came out, like as a new release. I saw this mentioned in a lot of YouTubers, like most anticipated books for 2026. And kind of got me curious. I do think the premise is interesting. I do like that it is a like person of color author. Bonus points because she's Indian. I love the Indian representation in literature. I feel like we don't see that very often, and anytime I do see it, I get very excited. If you haven't figured out why, it's because I'm Indian. So it's fun. It's an exciting time to have a Indian author writing a very interesting sort of YA fairy tale retelling. Yeah, so those are the 3 books I'm planning on reading this week. I think we're probably going to go all the way from Monday to Sunday. So today's Monday. And we're just going to follow my reading journey. We're going to maybe do a little bit of crochet because I've been crocheting a lot recently. I am working on multiple projects because for some reason I just can't focus on one thing at a time. I have a shawl that I'm working on for my sister, and then I have a granny square kind of sweater that I'm working on for myself. Hopefully I got the sizing right because if I put this all together and I find out that I can't actually fit into it, then it's going to be someone else's sweater. Yeah, so those are like the 2 projects that I'm working on that you're probably going to see in this video. Yeah, so we're going to do a little bit of reading. I'm going to update you probably tomorrow because tonight I do have some plans. So I'm probably not going to film again today, but I'm probably going to do a little bit of reading after filming this, and then I will see you tomorrow. We'll talk about what I read and how I'm feeling about the book. But yeah, I'm excited to have you here. And I'm excited to be doing another vlog. I mean, I don't feel like I'm that great at it, but it's kind of just fun to document my reading journey and like have another avenue where I can explore my thoughts and my feelings about the books that I'm reading. So I kind of like being able to film as much as I feel like filming in a day and then like kind of pushing it to the next day. Like instead of having to film like one long video that I film in one sitting, it does feel more comfortable in a lot of ways. So I don't know what else to say. Let's do some reading. It's Wednesday now, and I thought I would give a little bit of a reading update. On Monday, I really didn't get much reading done. I think I only read a couple of chapters of The Swan's Daughter by Roshani Chokshi. And then yesterday I ended up reading quite a bit of this book. I read up to chapter 16, which is pretty much like we're almost halfway through at this point. And so far I'm actually really enjoying this more than I thought I would. I remember my expectations when I first heard about this book was that it sounded very cute. It sounded like it was going to be a very cute story. I feel like from the little information that you get from like the synopsis and stuff like that, you can tell that it is kind of going to be a little bit funny. So I was expecting that, but I still feel like even though I went into this book thinking I was going to like it, I didn't expect to like it as much as I'm liking it so far. But it definitely does have that fairy tale feeling to it, and it is almost reminiscent of like original fairy tales. Like there is some like morbid, dark stuff in here, but it's told in such a lighthearted and humorous way. It's not anything like Grimm's fairy tales. Like it's not violent, it's not gory, but it does have that fairy tale feeling to it, like whimsical. I guess a little bit like not gothic. What is the right word? The words are just escaping me right now. It's just like there's a lot of things logically they just don't make sense, but I think that's pretty much what a fairy tale is. Like there's a lot of things that don't make sense, but it doesn't really matter for the story for it to make sense. If that makes sense. There's just like these little things about the world that she includes that are kind of funny. Like, for example, there's a wizard in the story and his castle is kind of sitting on these clouds that have fallen from the sky and they don't want to behave like clouds anymore and they have no interest in moving around, but when they go to sleep they kind of drift without meaning to. And there's a lot of personification of like inanimate objects. Like the houses have emotions and feelings and they do things on their own just unprompted. Like they're sentient, they're alive, and a lot of the objects I feel like in this story are imbued with magic. Like everything has magic in it. Yeah, so I don't know if that makes sense, but like there's just this like whimsical feeling to all of this that is very reminiscent of like a true fairy tale. And I'm having a lot of fun with it, honestly. There are things I didn't expect, like twists, I guess, to the story that I did not expect, and they're like in the very beginning. I am excited to continue reading this. I feel like there's a good chance I could finish this today. If I end up having enough time, because there are some other boring menial tasks that I have to get done today. But I see myself on track finishing this today, which would be good because I do want to return it to the library. I don't know why. I have this book checked out until like March, sometime in March, but it still just stresses me out a lot when I know I have like deadlines. And like I want to get the books that I borrowed back to the library as soon as I possibly can. And it just feels like it's just hanging over my head for some reason, even though I know that I have a lot of time with this book and with the other book that I borrowed, which was Alchemized by Sen-Lin Yu. I have that book until the 21st. Actually, that date is coming up. So probably in the next day or two, I'm going to have to go to the library and return that. Yeah, so I think we're probably going to continue reading this at some point today. This morning I woke up and I found out that I have another digital hold from the library that's available to borrow. And it's also a new release for 2026. It's I Could Be Famous by Sydney Rend. And I have been really excited to read that one, actually. It's supposed to be a collection of short stories that talk about like fame and what people are willing to do to achieve it. It was one of the January new releases that I was really excited about. One of two short story collections that came out in January also. And I don't know, it's just kind of interesting to me from like a psychological standpoint. I feel like we all secretly have this dream of being famous in some way. It might not necessarily be like celebrity famous, but we want to be recognized and acknowledged for certain things, And I think that is kind of a fame in a way. We all have this secret desire to be the best at what we do or to be adored or to be loved. So I think it was also especially interesting to me as someone who is kind of putting herself on the internet and kind of like just putting myself on a platform where, people are watching, I don't know how else to put it, but it was just interesting to me in that sense. I think also the stories are going to be a little bit weird and a little bit creepy, so I am kind of looking forward to that. That's such a weird thing to be looking forward to, but it's true. So now I don't know what to do though, because I cannot read 4 books in 1 week. Yeah, I'm gonna have to prioritize. The nice thing about the fact that it's a short story collection means that I don't have to like read it consecutively. I could just read one short story one day, read something else, and go back to it. I don't have to necessarily remember the last thing that I read. So jumping around should be a little bit easier, I think. And I think that might be what I'm gonna do. I feel like the short story collection could be like things that I read when I'm like waiting for something or when I'm on the toilet. I don't know, just like moments where I have a little bit of time and nothing to do, I guess. Yeah, and then the other thing yesterday that I most likely will include before this portion of the video is that I had to go get yarn to complete one of the projects that I'm working on. And then you most likely also saw me working on that project. It's supposed to be, like I realized I didn't even say what it is. It's going to be a book sleeve. But I ran out of the yarn and I had to get a little bit more so I can complete it. This is a gift for a friend. It is not a surprise, so, if she sees it, it's not really that big of a deal. But yeah, I think we're pretty good on the sizing. I used the Swan's Daughter as a measuring point to see if the size was good for the book sleeve. And then all that's left is I have to do the scalloped edge and sew it all together and then also add a button. So we still got quite a bit to do for this. I also have, I think at the beginning of this video, I did probably talk about the other projects that I'm working on, but I do also have a shawl that I'm working on for my sister. I have been working on this shawl for a very long time. Let's just say that. Maybe like a year or more. No, it can't be more because I started crocheting in 2025. But yeah, I have a shawl that I'm making for my sister and a sweater that I'm working on for myself. It should be an oversized cardigan, but I don't know. I'm notoriously bad at sizing things for myself. I always end up making them smaller. Also, something we may do this weekend, or no, something that we may do in this video is this little corner of mine, which is where I normally film. I feel like it's just like looking a little bit bare. I feel like things could be put here, I put my like little yarn basket here that I made just to add some interest, but I kind of want to put stuff on the wall, I think. This is like the corner of my bedroom, just so you know, because like I didn't have a good place to film. And also like this room during the day tends to be, this is kind of like the most private part of the house. There's no people, there are no dogs. Although I do love being around my dogs. So I'm not saying I don't, but they can be distracting, especially if they get really excited. They will start playing with their toys, and that's not a great environment to be filming in. So yeah, so my bedroom is kind of like the most private room in the house at the moment. So I kind of made a little film corner for myself here. But like I said, because it's not like a dedicated room, it doesn't really have a lot of my personality in it. So I have this like leaf garland thing that I was thinking about hanging on the bookshelves. And yeah. All right, let's just get right into the reading and the crochet. Again. Today's pretty gloomy. I think it's gonna be raining all day, so my lighting right now is just absolutely terrible. So I apologize for that. But today's Friday, and I have a lot of updates to give you guys. Let's just start with the reading updates, because that's what we're all here for, right? I did finish The Swan's Daughter by Roshani Chokshi, and I finished this on Wednesday, I think. I'm actually genuinely surprised at how much I liked this. I rated it 5 stars, which is kind of insane to me. I mean, there were some moments in the book where I felt like the logic or the plot like kind of didn't make sense, but overall, it was really enjoyable. Like I said, it's like a very fairy tale like world, and there are a lot of really interesting things that she included in this. One of the blurbs on the back says, skillful writing and intricate world building make the story a must read. And I feel like when I hear world building, I kind of think of like high fantasy kind of world building where you have like a map and you have different realms, I guess, or like different areas, and they all have names, and there are different types of people, like different races that all live there, and there's lore and there's history. I would not say that like this is that kind of world building, but I do understand what that author said. Juliet, I can't read her last name. Marillier? Juliet Marillier. She's the author of the Seven Waters and Heartwood series. It's not world building in the traditional fantasy sense, but all of the fairy tale elements that Roshani Chokshi created in this novel are very intricate. They're all very specific and just like kind of have that like weirdness that a fairy tale would have, and I really enjoyed that. I really enjoyed the romance. I feel like it was written very differently than a lot of romances. I feel like a lot of modern romances are either like the characters are very self-aware of how they feel about each other in a way. They either know that they already have feelings for that person, or they like hate that person. Like there's always just very strong feelings towards that person. I feel like this romance kind of just like creeps up on you. Kind of how like it creeps up on the characters. It's sort of, you watch it being built from the ground up, and I think that was really interesting. I don't know if that's a spoiler. If that is a spoiler, I am so sorry. But I don't know, I really liked the romance in this. I thought it was really cute. And this is a YA fantasy. Really didn't feel like I was reading a YA book, and I don't really know why that is. I think the character of Prince Eris, he's very wise, and there's a lot of very interesting, not interesting, but very profound and full of wisdom. What am I saying? There are a lot of very profound things that he says, and even like conversations that he has with his parents or conversations that he has with Demelza. All of those characters, each one of them has some very profound like quotes. And I did write some of them down, but I forgot to bring my notebook up with me. I'm gonna go get it. One second. I liked this quote about mothers. Mothers are tricky creatures. Imagine a being racked by the resentments of youth, embattled by societal claims upon its body, and beset by an abundance of altruistic love. And then there's this quote. This was just kind of funny to me. I think that's why I wrote it down. But it was a terrible poem. So terrible, in fact, that when he read it aloud, a stray wind found itself so offended that it swept the paper off the breakfast table and straight into the fire. There were a lot of lines like that were just like so hilarious, just so funny. And then there was this quote, which this was one of the ones that I felt like was really profound. Only we can determine what holds value in our lives. Sometimes it takes the whole of our lives to figure out what that means. That is not a bad thing. Futility is different. Futility is trying to wring a boulder for milk. It is asking the impossible of a situation rather than opening yourself to other wonders. And actually, I have a lot of quotes from this that I like. But for the next one, I didn't actually write down the quote. I just wrote down very profound thoughts about love and how burdensome it can be. So let me find that. That was on page 160. It was all too much in that moment. Eris wanted to feel appreciative, and he did, but he was ashamed that he also felt annoyed. He did not wish to bear the burden of his father's grief and regrets on top of his own, and it wasn't as though that's what his father was asking, but love is a burden, Eris realized. He loved Eustace, and he did not wish for him to feel this way, but he also wished he didn't have to go through any of this in the first place. I don't know. There's just like a lot of very profound, thought-provoking sentences in this book, and I mean I thought it was really well written. I thought it was very interesting. Like I think this book surprised me a lot, which I think I've said before is kind of a hard thing to do these days. I feel like every book kind of feels the same to previous or other books in the past, and it just gets really hard to like be surprised or like be shocked. But this book did that for me, and I felt like it deserved 5 stars, even if it did have some shortcomings. For example, like there's a part in the ending I didn't really like. I feel like it didn't really have a purpose. I feel like we already kind of saw that happen previously, so I just felt like it was a little bit repetitive in my opinion. But overall, I just I don't know. I'm just really glad that I read it. I didn't think I was going to like it. I think because I felt like it was getting hyped up too much from what I saw. And that made me feel like maybe this wasn't it wasn't going to be as good as everyone was saying it is. But no, it was really good. And I'm glad I read that. The next reading update is that I started reading Maria the Wanted by B. Castro. This book is also kind of surprising me, or like it wasn't what I expected either. I don't know what it is. Like, I don't know what the literary terms would be to describe this because I'm not like, I didn't really study English or anything, not officially. Like, I would sort of dabble in it. I would do like writing courses or like literature courses in college, but I definitely did not study it extensively. But the book is like, it's written in third person. We have a narrator and they're following Maria as she navigates this new journey in life. And I'm finding the story very interesting, but there's something about the way that it's being told that's just like not vibing with me. I don't know, almost like detached maybe. I feel like I'm just being told what's happening and I'm not seeing it happen. I don't know if that makes sense. But yeah, I mean, that is kind of what this book is feeling like to me. But I do like the way that the author is unfolding the story. I feel like it's another story where it's like you feel like you're peeling back layers and things are getting more complex. It's interesting too, because I feel like I don't know where this book is kind of heading. Like, you know what Maria's goals are and like what she's working towards. I think the other thing is hold on, my thoughts are getting ahead of my mouth. Yeah, so you kind of know what she's working towards, but it's also like you don't know where. I feel like I feel like at the same time, even though she has this goal in her mind, she's also very lost. And so you don't know where she's really going to end up because it doesn't feel like she's really working very hard to reach that goal. Not working as hard as she could. She's kind of just like going with the flow. And I think what I was going to say next is that kind of leads to the story being a little bit slow. It's not difficult to read. The chapters are very short. The book itself is actually very short. I think it's only about 300 something pages. So it's not dragging at all, but it is slow. And I think I just didn't expect that because the premise was supposed to be this woman who turns into a vampire. She gets caught up in like a vampire cartel situation or mafia situation. And ultimately, she's kind of searching for her creator, the vampire that turned her. And in the process, she kind of, I think, discovers things about herself and finds community somehow as a vampire. She finds this community that like embraces her. I think it's also interesting because it's like, you're also getting a lot of this history of Mexico and what life is like for someone who lives there. And it is actually truly so terrifying. The experience that people in Mexico have to deal with, especially in, I guess, in this book. I'm not sure. I'm not familiar with Mexico completely, but I know that life can be very difficult for people in Mexico, in that country. So it's absolutely terrifying. And I feel like it also makes a lot of sense for there to be vampires. I feel like we were always seeing vampires in like New England kind of situations. And they're always like rich and they are like ancient and blah, blah, blah. I feel like this is different. We're following a different kind of vampire. And I do find it pretty interesting. I might have to pause on it though, because I have a lot more time to read that book than I do the third book that I was going to read in this vlog, which is Hemlock by Melissa Faliveno. Yesterday I realized that I only have like 4 days, so I might switch to Hemlock just so I can get through it and then I can pass it on to the next people that are waiting for it, because I won't be able to renew it. But I have a lot more time with Maria the Wanted, so I might read that third. I mean, we'll see if I can even fit it into this vlog because we are coming to the end of the week, so which is fine. Hemlock is also pretty short, I think. I think it's only like 300-400 pages at most. Other updates. Wednesday, I did go to the library and I did not film it because I feel weird about filming in public. You've probably already seen the filming I did in the craft store, which was really just like nothing at all. And it felt so awkward doing that. I don't know how people do this. I just feel like I'm disturbing everybody or like I'm gonna bother someone's gonna get upset. I don't know. That's something I have to work on. But I did go to the library, didn't film it. I had to return Alchemized, which I had borrowed, and I did pick up some books, which You know, honestly, it doesn't really make sense considering I have so many books that I have to read from Libby. But I did it anyway. So the first one I got was The Line by Terry Hall, and I do have a plan for this. This is going to be part of another reading vlog. I think I'm just generally going to be doing a lot of reading vlogs on this channel. And then I got Bunny by Mona Awad, which I'm actually really excited to read. I just picked this up on a whim, like I had no plans for it. Just seemed like a good idea. I don't know, I just remember hearing about it a lot in 2025. While I was at the library, I also noticed that she has a debut novel that she wrote before this, and I was like, should I pick that up first? But Bunny is the one that I'm more interested in. So then the last one, which I'm also really excited about, The Bewitching by Sylvia Moreno Garcia. She is the author of Mexican Gothic, which I bought and I read in 2024, I think. So I didn't really like Mexican Gothic. I liked parts of it, but I think there were other parts that I just kind of had some trouble with. But that is the only book I've ever read by Sylvia Moreno Garcia. And when the Bewitching came out, I was kind of interested. This one is going to be about witches, and Mexican Gothic was, I don't know if it's a spoiler, but it's about vampires. So I'm hoping that this will be more up my alley. I feel like this might be something that I'm going to like more, especially because it's kind of like a historical witchy book, and that is something that I've been kind of craving lately. So I might have another vlog where I'm going to read witchy books. I have a lot of ideas for reading vlogs. I kind of have this like structure I think that I want to do. Instead of doing like a monthly TBR, I feel like I'm going to be doing like a weekly TBR, and we're going to have themes. This vlog's theme is obviously new releases, and next week I can't decide what I want to do, but I have to decide soon. I think the two themes that I'm choosing between are going to be, one is going to be witchy books, and I was going to choose one book from 3 different genres. Obviously, if I don't end up choosing like historical, I'm still going to end up reading The Bewitching because I borrowed it. Or I was going to read the first books that I ever added to my TBR. So if I went on Goodreads and I reversed my want to read list so that I'm starting from the first book that I ever added, we're going all the way back to 2014. I don't think I have a lot of books from like 2014 to 2016, but they are there, and I have not read them. So that's one of the reasons why I got The Line by Terry Hall, because this is the first book in my want to read that I haven't read or deleted. I have a few others. I mean, I have so many ideas. Ideally, it would be fun if it could be like a community thing and you guys could help me choose. Maybe one day. But I mean, for now, like it's gonna be books either books about witches or books that I added to my TBR and have not read yet. The oldest books on my TBR, let's just say that. Those are the 2. Maybe I'll pin a comment to this video so that you guys can help me choose. So I think the plan for today is I want to do some reading, obviously. I'm going to start Hemlock today. I want to hang this up on my bookshelf. It's like hanging vines and then it lights up. Hold on, I'm getting tangled in it. I think I'll make things a little more, what's the word? It'll create an ambiance. That's what I'm trying to say. I'm going to do some more crochet. The update on that is I still haven't finished the book sleeve, which should be the easiest project of them all. I know I mentioned also that I was working on a shawl for my sister, and it's probably like hasn't been featured at all in this video because I am genuinely avoiding it. I'm like literally trying to stay away from it as much as I can for some reason. The person who created this pattern, I've made one of her shawls before, and they're absolutely like beautiful. The end result, I feel like, is so worth it. But these are like the hardest patterns I have ever worked on. And it's not like, I mean, some of the stitches are, I think, more complex or more advanced. I think this is meant to be like an intermediate level pattern. I think the problem is that it's actually really hard to count the stitches just because of the way the pattern is built. The first one that I made, I made one for my mom. And I think that pattern was actually harder than this one. I feel like this one, if I mess up, I can kind of get away with it without having to like frog it and like fix whatever mistake I made. But the last time I was working on it, I counted the stitches after I finished a row and they were wrong. like I had more stitches than I needed. And now I can't decide if I want to just keep going and just, like say F it and see how it turns out. I know it's going to still turn out generally in the right shape and pattern that I need it to be. Or do I frog it? Like, honestly, I don't even know how far I have to frog it to. Do I have to start completely over? I think I need to like rally myself. I need to push myself to just like at least count the stitches in each row so I can figure out where I messed up and then maybe decide from there if I want to frog it or keep going. Because the thought of frogging like multiple rows and like losing all of that work is just so stressful to me. And I think that's why I'm avoiding it. And that's why you guys haven't seen me work on it at all. And then the third thing that I'm working on, the third crochet project that I'm working on, is this sweater that I'm making for myself. And I have been working on that. I just haven't filmed any of it. It's kind of just like a bunch of granny skirts, but I'll show you guys. I will add some footage of that at some point. I'll try. Yeah. Yeah, so that's the plan, or at least that's the part of my day that I'm going to show you guys. I also forgot to mention that I mentioned before that I wanted to add stuff to this wall. And so far, all I have are these prints from a subscription box that I got. They're quotes from 2 books. The first one is from The Blue Castle by L.M. Montgomery. So the quote says, "She knew perfectly well that no spot or place or home in the world could ever possess the sorcery of the Blue Castle." Love it. And I love the like florals. And then the second one is a Sherlock Holmes quote from The Hounds of the Baskervilles, because that's a book that I got in the subscription box. And the quote says, "The world is full of obvious things which nobody by any chance ever observes." And again, it's kind of like florally. I'm going to take better shots of this and so you guys can see them. But I was thinking about hanging those on this wall here, just like on a nail. I'm going to try to do it myself, which is kind of terrifying to me, but I don't want to bother my husband, and also I want to film it. Yeah, and if I can find other stuff to hang here, I think that would be great. But right now, that's all I have. I kind of want to do like a little gallery wall. I think that would be really cute. Yeah, so that's the day. We'll see what else I get up to. If I do anything interesting, I will definitely try to film it. Can't guarantee anything because clearly sometimes I just can't get myself to do it. I do have to untangle this too. Before I can hang it. That just suddenly occurred to me. Yeah, so let's just get right into the day. Hi, it's Monday now. I was supposed to film the outro to this video yesterday, but I didn't do that, so here we are. I didn't want to leave this video without, giving like a final update for the week, so I did do some reading over the weekend, but it wasn't that much. I got maybe like 35% into Hemlock, and yesterday I did spend a good chunk of the day playing Baldur's Gate. That was not planned. It just sort of happened, and it was kind of nice actually, because I haven't played any video games in a really long time. I think it's been like half a year since I've even like turned on Steam. So it was good to kind of get back into it a little bit and explore different hobbies than the usual hobbies that I'm doing. But yeah, so I did get into 35% of Hemlock, and I'm actually I'm enjoying it. I feel like that's what I say about every book. But I am. I am enjoying it. It is a little bit creepy, and it is taking an interesting direction, something that I wasn't really expecting. Before I started reading this book, I feel like I wasn't entirely sure what the premise was. I knew what the premise was, but I didn't really know what the book was going to be about necessarily. And I think now I'm even more confused. Because there are hints of things that I was kind of like... I feel like, I don't know if it's foreshadowing or it's just misdirection, but there are these little hints that the author is dropping that is making me feel like this book is headed in a direction that I wasn't expecting. And it's got me curious, I think. I really want to know what's going on. When I was looking into this book before I started reading it, I remember reading that this book was supposed to be about like addiction, and also I think talks a lot about mental health. So I think the question that I have while reading this right now is just like, are the things that are happening actually happening, or is it like a combination of her alcohol addiction plus, the trauma that she's been through in her childhood and during her life? Because like with fiction, you really don't know which direction it's going to go. So you don't really know what the threat is. And I think that's pretty interesting. I think most likely the explanation is just going to be like something realistic. But it would be interesting if it turned out to be something else. That's all I'm saying. Part of me wants to look at Goodreads or like look up this book again to see like what genres it was categorized under. But I feel like if I do that, I'm going to ruin the story for myself. So I'm not going to do that. I'm going to fight that urge. I'm going to resist. So like moving on to the crochet updates for this week. I did finish the sort of crochet part of the book sleeve that I was working on. And it's fully constructed and everything. All I have to do, all that's left, is adding the button. And I am, again, just like, I'm avoiding it because I don't have a lot of experience like sewing buttons onto things. I've only done it maybe once or twice. And I always get worried that like my sewing skills are not going to be good enough. So I am kind of procrastinating just out of anxiety, which is like the story of my life. But yeah, I'm just going to have to push through it. Probably just look up a video on how to sew buttons just so I can, make sure I'm doing it correctly. But yeah, once I do that, once I add the button on, which luckily I already have buttons, so I don't have to buy any. Once I do that, the book sleeve will be done. And I can present that to my friend. 2 months late, but better late than never. Almost 3 months late, actually. But better late than never, right? Well, I just felt my earrings, like, flying around. I don't normally wear long earrings, so I'm not used to that. Or it's been a really long time since I've worn, like, dangly earrings. I don't know, today just felt like a good day. I think I wanted to wear them because they reminded me of snow, and there's a blizzard going on outside my window right now. So I was inspired. My whole outfit, I think, today is inspired by the snowstorm. We were almost free of the snow. It was almost like completely done melting, and it's all back, which is great. Great. I remember my 2 vlogs ago, I was like, oh, snow is so cozy. And it is. I do feel the coziness. But also, I want to go outside. And I don't think I'm going to be able to go outside for another 24 hours at least. I have to figure out how to keep myself from going stir crazy. As far as the sweater goes, back to the crochet, my sweater that I'm working on, I still have to make 10 squares of the last color, and then I have to construct that. That's probably going to be in next week's vlog because I'm a vlogger now, apparently. Yeah, so hopefully I can finish that sweater this week. That would be nice. That would be really cool, actually. To actually complete a project that I started working on. To actually finish something would be amazing. Didn't work on the shawl, as you already know. But I'm going to get to that soon. Yeah, I think those are all the updates. I'm probably going to film the intro to the next vlog right after this, which is kind of funny. I was supposed to film this yesterday, but Baldur's Gate just called me. Baldur's Gate just called me? Baldur's Gate was calling to me, is what I'm trying to say. I hope that you enjoyed watching this vlog. I don't really have a very exciting life, but I try to make things interesting where I can, mostly by overestimating my ability and the amount of time I have to do things. Yeah, actually, that's a good point. I was supposed to read 3 books, and I read 1 and a third. 3 books in a week, which should have been possible for me, but for some reason, only got through 1 and a third, and I'm already on a new week, which I had different plans for. So now I have to figure out how to read everything all at once, which is going to be interesting. But I think this coming week, like, I can control how intense it's going to be. So we'll keep things pretty chill so that I can catch up on the books that I'm like backlogged on, which is there's so many books that I'm backlogged on. I actually think that that's going to be another theme for a different vlog, is like books that I'm backlogged on. The books that are in my backlog. Because I so far every month have had books that, well, this month I didn't do a monthly TBR, but December and January, I have books that I was supposed to read and didn't get to. So I think one of these weeks I'm going to be reading the 2 books that I was supposed to read and didn't. All right. Well, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed watching me live my life. And I'll see you again in another video very soon, because I'm going to be filming it right after this. If you are living in an area that's affected by this blizzard, I hope you're staying safe. I hope you get to enjoy the snow to some capacity and it's not completely destroying everything. And I hope you have a great week. Bye.